Hello, my friends. Welcome to the Sunshine Study. Now, I have a lovely title for today that YouTube suggested, so I hope you resonate with it. Let me read it to you. The Grace of Unfinished Projects, Finding Peace in Our Creative Messes. Oh my goodness, because creativity to me is joy, but I thought I'd share with you some of my creative messes. So, this is very soft wool, but welcome. Anyway, this is the Sunshine Study. Why would a life coach talk about creativity? Well, it's a great antidote to stress. Please realise that action negates worry. And I like making things and giving them to people because I like learning, I love fabric, I love yarn. It's one of the things I can do and succeed at to some degree, but also the joy of somebody's face when they look at it and they say, "Did you make this for me?" And I say, yes, I did. I was thinking of you with every stitch and every mistake and every blunder. So it's that joy I seek. There's a moment when people's faces light up, and I am a big follower of that joy. But there's a lot of things that I talk to clients about creativity and finishing things. And here's the really important thing. This is dropping off. I tried to make it look nice like a shawl. Maybe that's the best. Is that it's the judgment we place on ourselves about it that gives us distress. What if we got rid of the judgmental, nasty, bullying accusations, the inadequacies, and just put loving care instead, or curiosity? And there's a huge liberation once we take out shame, guilt, judgmental nastiness, or unpleasant opinions about things. We lift that from ourselves. We don't just liberate other people. And that doesn't mean that we don't have choices or perceptions about things. But when it's about something we're trying to make and it doesn't go well, creative mess is creative privilege. So I wanted to talk to you about these things in particular because they have not gone well, but it doesn't mean they don't have use, worth, or joy attached to them. So let me tell you a couple of things. I had wanted a sewing machine since I was 11, and I had a long journey to getting a sewing machine and learning to sew, but it was one of the few things that I could do because I was ill with ME, and physical things that I wanted to do like gardening or have an allotment or go running or cycling or swimming or triathlons or choir or bands. All of those things were taken and my health wasn't good enough for them. So I thought, a little bit of creativity, what could I manage? So I think the first question is, don't be judgmental about what you can manage or not manage. It's just the reality of the stage of life you're in. Now, when I was 11, I had all the energy in the world, but no dexterity, no determination, no ability to concentrate or sit still. So I had lots of energy, but I didn't have any of the mental equipment to see things through in that way. When I was 21, I was more ill than you can imagine, couldn't do anything. When I was 41 and 51, I've now got tenacity and skills and I know what practice is. I just have less energy. But I make peace with that. So the first thing is remove the judgment from it. Now here's the great revelation of life coaching, is that the learning will be bumpy. It will not be linear and easy and it all works out perfectly the first time. That's what life is like. It is a syllabus, it's an apprenticeship. It's what craft and creativity and making things are. It is in the mistakes that the treasure is found. Now, it might feel like it's nothing but mistakes and it's nothing but struggle. Life might feel like that. But there are great lessons in what not to do and how to do things in a better or more efficient way. So let me tell you about the crochet. I tried to look for a good crochet teacher on the internet, and I searched all over and I tried to find good sewing teachers. And then I thought, I'm going to try and work this out for myself. So whenever I see something that I might want to make, I look at it and I look at how it's constructed and work backwards. So I try and do my own thinking first and then find a good teacher. And then I just sort of play with it a bit and see what does what. Now, here's a good example. I have made probably 100 scarves. They're not brilliant, they're not perfect, but they're very reasonable and they've made a few people happy. But when you finish them or change colours, there's a thing called sewing in the ends, and you sort of wind these in. And that's a fiddly job. And it's a job that's quite a sedentary job. But then I end up with like 20 scarves with the ends that need sewing in. And then I'm cross with myself because I haven't finished them. So let's make some peace with that. This is true for life in itself, whether you're writing a book or a thesis, or you're just trying to do something that's difficult. Is sometimes we have spurts of growth when we make progress in one area, like producing lots of scarves. And then we have times where we're a bit more sedentary, and they are the sewing in days. And I give myself enough grace to say that, well, there'll be some days when I just have the energy to do the sewing in. I will pile these up. So I've got two at the moment, and I've got two in the garage, and I will put them in a little box, and they will wait until I have the time, the energy, or just maybe we're snowed in and I haven't got much else to do. So I'm quite comfortable with parking them until there is an appropriate gap. Give yourself some peace. I first heard the expression park it when I was in a postgraduate training lecture, and a woman came and talked to us about her doctorate and how she was doing it. And she had done some deviation of a project that had taken her down an alley, a rabbit warren. And I remember she said, I've parked it. And she just did this gesture of parking it up here somewhere. And she said, I'll come back to that later. It's not going anywhere. It's a lovely analogy. We don't have to park too many things, but it's all right to park a few things. So we're always doing the parking up here. Now let me show you another bit of parking. Is I tried to make these sort of little sunflowers to make key rings, but they take a ton of sewing in, and just it's a fiddle. So I have a box of little flowers, and they are going to be a little job that I can take with me if I have to wait outside somewhere for a long time, but they're just going to sit, and I have parked the sunflowers. Now, this is a sewing job that's half done, and these are little bags that I'm making, and I've done them in several stages. So you do them inside out. So there's the zip, and then I will use my overlocker to sew around the outsides and then turn it inside out. There's a box full of these because I will need to do that on a day when I can be bothered to fight with my overlocker, because sometimes it's complicated and it needs threading and I'll need spare needles. So I'm not doing that when I'm tired or when I'm busy. I'll do that on a quiet, wet day if I've got spare time. So can you see how I'm parking things until the appropriate energy comes? Now, finally, the great mess and the great creativity of trying to learn granny squares. This is what you call them. And I love the pink, but I don't know if you can see my corners. It's not symmetrical, so it's a bit warped. It's a bit of a trapezium. And these corners are not matched up. And there's an absolute mountain of sewing in. Now, this was meant to be a cardigan, and it's so bad, but it's my first go. So it's not horrendous, is it? I mean, it's reasonable. But there's the point. It's a reasonable first try. The next time I'll do it better. Or maybe this will just be a little blanket or a little throw. Or maybe it'll just go in the bin and it doesn't matter. So here's the thing. Of course, it's easy to think, all that time and energy, and he's given me a sore shoulder, and all the money on resources. And there's that issue of sunk costs in life of creativity and time. I spent the money on the yarn, I used time that I could have done something else. And this is particularly pertinent for people with limited energy, because you can't feel you can ever waste it. It's like limited money, don't burn it. But again, I would say the learning of this is that I know that if I don't do the counting, it won't be quite right, because I was watching telly or having a conversation or too tired to count. There will be outcomes. So I will now learn granny squares so that, and this is the important thing, I know I have to concentrate a bit more. I know I have to make the points measure up, and maybe having a cardigan was too big a task and I should have just started with a blanket. So think about a reasonable goal, but also it's not too bad. I mean, it's not brilliant, but I could pull it to bits, couldn't I? I could tell you all the dreadful waste of time and money and energy, or I could be pleased I had tried. And that's what I want to talk about, creative mess. The mess is part of creativity. It is a joy. It is a privilege, it is a pleasure, and it's just to see where this will go. Because when I was a tiny little girl, I loved making things. If I wasn't out and about running and climbing and, being a proper tomboy, I wanted to make things. And then you make something and you make it, and you make it and make it. And by the end, you get very good at it. You've just got to do it enough. And I'll finish with this mantra about creative mess. Is don't be judgmental about it. Do your best, be generous, be gracious, and see what fun you can have. Can it take you into a place of quiet contemplation? And then the really important point of this is the joy it will generate when you're good at it. It's a lovely feeling. And that you can make things or mend things or create things that didn't exist before. And that's a huge way to joy. And then every now and again, you might make something for somebody or a lot of people, and they might just go, oh, there might be just that sound, oh, and you can watch their face. And that negates all of the mistakes and the worry. And my final thought would be, think about having a sentence that you can say to yourself, which will keep you going when it's difficult. My phrase is, if I can thread an overlocker, I surely must be able to sort this out. Overlockers have often 4 threads and it's complicated and it's fiddly and I've got big hands. So if you can do that, which took me a good couple of days to master, I'm sure I can sort this out. And that's a lovely mantra for living. Think about that. And if I can do that, then I can cope with this. I hope that helps, my friends. Take care. God bless. Be safe. Find some joy and creativity. Give yourself some peace and grace in the mess. And leave me your comments about what I should do with this, because it's just, it's warm, nothing else. And it's reasonably pretty. So take care, my friends. God bless. Be safe. And joyous blessings from the Sunshine Study.